Hello, everybody out there, Grown Women Growing Wealth. I'm Roberta Ravella. I'm here with Daphne Jones. Good morning, Daphne.
Hey,
It's
how's it
morning right
going?
now here.
It's morning here too. It's awesome. A little
Uh,
overcast, but we'll
yeah,
live.
it's bright and sunny here in Florida, but it's windy this morning. So, what are you going to do? But this morning, we're here with Dr. Brenda Uekert. She is a financial coach. She has a financial community called the Gutsy Women's Club. She's also a full time RVer. And just a pretty interesting all around lady. Good morning, Dr. Brenda, and thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you, Roberta and Daphne. I'm really looking forward to this. This is going to be fun. Thanks for the invitation.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
you're welcome. We were talking, and then Roberta reminded me to press record so we won't miss it. The we were talking about women and their degrees because you have a PhD in sociology. Okay. Um, so PhD, you went 3 to 4 years past your bachelor's.
Oh, don't we wish? Don't we wish? No, it's more like a 10-year journey for a lot of us liberal arts PhDs. So it certainly takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. Now, I chose sociology because I fell in love with social science research.
Hmm.
So my true strength is in research, but yeah, you fall in love with a passion doesn't necessarily lead to terrific employment, at least initially. It has paid off for me, but certainly struggled with that PhD.
Okay, because I was talking about in my former life, I'm a recovering life insurance agent. So you start talking money when you getting involved in life insurance because it's an outlay, an initial outlay, and often I would find student debt. Of course, we're reading about it constantly, but particularly with women, and they took quite a bit of debt on for degrees that didn't give an ROI immediately. Now, passion is awesome because this is a passion project. This is how it started off. But but Roberta and I didn't borrow six figures to create it.
No.
Right. And now I think the average interest rate now is like 7.75% for student loans. So I guess it's more of a statement than a question, but how do you rectify? I mean, how do we get women to understand and like I said, I see it more with women. This is great, but how exactly do you plan to finance this degree? What's the plan? You want a master's in social work? Okay. Do what you want to do,
Um,
but that has to be financed some way. It has to make some
well,
financial
let me tell
sense.
you, I got my PhD, and you know how much debt I was left with?
We're waiting with bated breath.
$1,300.
Good
Oh,
for
oh.
you.
$1,300. It was an IBM 286 with a dot matrix printer. That definitely dates me, but I had a, teaching assistantship. It included tuition stipend, so I didn't pay tuition, and I got enough to live off of, and I did not go after any other loans other than what I needed to buy that old clunky computer.
Yeah.
So, and back then it was more like 3,000. So I might, it's
Okay.
probably about a 3,000 debt. So, you can do it. But it's after you come out with that degree, yeah, a lot of this is timing. So, you come out to a recession, it doesn't matter how many degrees you have and what they're in. You might be flipping burgers for a while. But back to the student loan piece, I get women who are in their 50s and 60s and still they've got a six-figure loan debt,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to have to work their entire lives. I mean, that's the hard reality of it. And a 7 or 8%, some of these student loans, they're private loans over 10%, and it is impacting women more. When you look at the stats, women are carrying more of a student loan debt than the men are.
It's interesting because obviously it's a hot button, right? You hear about it all the time. The Gen Zers are very angry about it. You know, there's our generation that I had student loans, but I never took that much. Now I do know people my age who are still carrying $40,000-$50,000 in student debt. My sister has a PhD as well, and she came out with about the same amount as you had in debt, but she worked the whole time. In fact, at one point she was working 2 jobs and getting her master's. So we kind of have this push-pull in the family with some other people who have student debt who won't work. They're like, I'm in school, I can't work. It's like, okay, you gotta have to do one or the other, right? There's gotta be a break. Either you're gonna have to deal with the debt or you're gonna have to get a job, or like my sister did, she had a lot of 50-cent burritos.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
You know, there were more than
peanut
one day where
butter
she's like,
and
I had 3
yeah.
yogurts today and I'm getting ready to microwave my burrito and yummy. And I mean, fortunately for her at that time, I was making really good money and I was able to help her out with a few things. But as far as like our parents putting in or something like that, you know, I bought her laptop for her and she paid for her own 50-cent burritos. But there were some sacrifices made there to not have that debt. No, I'm not saying you're a bad person if you have debt, but I was listening, Brenda, to your YouTube channel, and an interesting thing, and I think this is a good springboard for it to talk about, is financial behavior. So we're almost like motivational interviewing, where we say, okay, I want this degree, I want to better myself, but I also want wealth building, generational wealth, etc. And the behaviors don't match at all.
Right. Yeah, a couple of things are going on. Definitely, it costs a whole lot more for education today than it did when I went to school. When I went to school, a working class person could pay the tuition and could manage it, and that's no longer true. But yeah, we want it all, but don't want to have to work for it. So, I mean, I worked as well. I didn't just sit for 10 years writing a PhD. I actually worked at the University of California. And it's interesting because the job I had helped set student budgets. So people who were applying for financial aid, I ran a survey. And one of those things that we uncovered later on was like, is there a happy spot? Like, can you work and go to school and still do well? And everything kept coming back to 20 hours a week. If you work more than 20
Mm-hmm.
hours a week and you're going to college, your grades are going to start to suffer. If it's 20 hours or less, it actually improves your grades. So, yeah, there's a different type of culture going on. And I really love the whole behavioral finance field because there's a disconnect between what we want and what we do. I mean, it happens in investing all the time. So somebody takes that survey. Oh, well, you see, you're on the aggressive side of investing. That's what that survey shows. And the minute something goes on in the stock market and things look like they're going to tank, you pull out. You do exactly the opposite of what you said you would do. And that is very common in finances. You almost have to play little tricks with yourself.
Yeah, like don't look at it.
That's true.
Or
Keeping one. No, go ahead.
the ever popular among people who are wealthy and help others become wealthy is put it on some sort of set it and forget it to where you can take the emotion out of it. What were you going to say, Tab?
Well, about doing what you said you were going to do, and then you came in with set it and forget it. I find that that's a great way for the majority of the population to try to accumulate wealth, because the majority of people are not business owners, full-time business owners. And then we know the statistics on how many businesses actually make a profit, folks who call themselves business owners. But when you're trading time for dollars, you're working, setting it and forgetting it is better than nothing. So again, in sitting down talking, sitting at kitchen tables talking to folks, often we get so much information, we get analysis paralysis. So actually to simply, okay, the individual started working at X job, which that's what you do to feed yourself. Get handed a bunch of paperwork. He just listens to their parents and starts putting away 10% in the company's retirement plan, whatever it is, 401k, 403b, whatever it is. And it's there, and it's 10%. Now, you'll often hear, you'll have other financial folks that'll come out. You should do this, you should do that. That individual, male or female, is ahead of the game, is ahead of the majority of the country, particularly if they leave it alone. Just leave it alone. So,
Yeah.
I mean, because you're doing other things while you're living. You're raising kids, particularly if you're a woman, you're raising kids, there's family issues, there's the job itself. Who has time to sit there and watch how a particular stock is performing? So that's my 2 cents about setting it and forgetting it. And just get started, because to me, just get started. Just start the thing. Buy a policy, contribute, keep it simple.
Do something.
Right.
Yeah. So, Dr. Brenda, tell us, do you research financial behavior? Do you help people with their financial behavior? Is it some combination of both?
I work as a financial coach. I have increasingly, when I worked in nonprofits for 20 plus years. So switching over to having my own business, being an entrepreneur, that was a huge shift. And now I'm in a position where, the old days, I had my work and my life fit around my work, maybe. Now I have my life and my work fits around my life. It's a totally different approach.
Mm-hmm.
So I have started to do more of group coaching, courses, online things that I can schedule ahead of time. And my big thing is financial freedom, financial independence. So I don't know how familiar your audience is with the whole FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, that whole FI part.
Mm-hmm.
That's the sweet spot. That's the goal. That's where we're trying to get folks. And I start from the very beginning. So I was working with a business coach, and she said, okay, how did you get to this point where, my career ended in my 50s and I could really decide what I wanted to do? And I said, this is it. Dream, plan, save, do. That's really it. Have a
Okay.
dream, make
Hold
a
on.
plan.
Dream, plan, save, do.
Yep. Dream, plan, save, do. Have a dream, make a plan, save and invest, and then you got to go out and do it. And that's really what it comes down to. So, within Gutsy Women Finances community, I have the Financial Freedom Academy, and you got to start with purpose, and you have to start with mindset, and you have to start with also getting rid or changing those money myths that have held us back. So it all starts with the mindset and
Mm-hmm.
believing that we can actually reach it. And then the tools. The money is just a tool. To me, the purpose of money is not to make money. The purpose of money is to build a life that you just love, to build your dream life, to live your passions, to do what you want to do, whatever it may be.
It's choices, isn't it? That's what I can't remember what age it just dawned on me. Because I was in the mortgage business at the time, which of course is a lot of money, a lot of people making a lot of money. And you would have thought everybody was happy and nobody was addicted to anything. And you would have been wrong, right? That money didn't fix a lot of stuff. And people who were spending at the point where they were never going to be able to retire, and they were making so much money. So, I just had a lot of thinking through it all. Like, do I want to stay this way? How do I want to live my life? And it's like, okay, the money equals choices. It's if I don't have a ton of debt and I have enough money to get where I need to go, then I have a lot more choices than if I'm a slave to 6 figures of student debt. If I'm a slave to a bunch of addictions that I created because I'm making $500,000, but I'm miserable at my employment or the company that I built, right? Like, I love how you say to dream, like you start with a dream. How do you want to live your life? What do you want this to look like? Do you want to be 65 and still plugging at the W-2 because, I don't know, you didn't plan for anything else? Sometimes I think it's just the assumption that that's the way life is. At some point I'll retire. And there's like what happened with Daphne, where Daphne, you got out of corporate because they kindly released you from your corporate job. And then you start that dream and you start planning, okay, what is this going to look like? Then how do you help people decide how to save? Because you still got to live, right? You still got to eat. You still got to pay the mortgage. Like Daphne's saying, we still got to put the kids through school. So how do they plan? You've got your dream, where you want to go. How do they plan around all of those extra things? Well, actually not extras. I'd
Those
say
extra
essential.
things like kids, like kids and all those other great things. You mentioned choices. I really like intentional living and intentional spending priorities. And what I tell folks is, I hope my connection remains. I'm having lots of weird things going on in the background here. So, um, you've got dream, plan, save, do. You can dream at any time in your life, and your dreams change, and you can plan. There are things that you might have to put off. Maybe you can't save and invest the way you want to when you've got 3 kids at home. But you can certainly do that later. There are always things that you can do. I love side hustles. I love the idea of having that security of employment, that security of a steady paycheck, and squeezing out a little bit of time to maybe open up an Etsy store or do something online. Um, it may or may not make any money, but we keep seeing more and more people leave their workforce because that side hustle has turned into enough to cover their expenses. And, now we're seeing, especially after the pandemic, people are just leaving the workforce in droves. It's just doesn't bring them the satisfaction. We've seen, our lives are more important and more valuable than maybe we've ever realized. And it's like, how do I want to spend my time? Do I want to spend my time getting in the car and driving into town and sitting at the office for 10 hours a day? I don't want that anymore. So I really do see a big shift in people sort of grabbing onto this new economy and taking a couple of risks, even when they're juggling all these other things.
Well, Agnes, it is about choices and to be able to offer yourself options. So because money's an inanimate object and it does what you tell it. And if you don't tell it anything, it won't do anything. It'll sit right there and wait on you. So how do you help with individuals that are in your community? How do you get them to see that money is that it's a thing? You tell it what to do. It's a hammer, it's a nail. You tell it what to do. Because often the money story is you hear phrases like, if my money's right, we'll see how it turns out. No, you're in control of that.
Yeah, it's a process, and I start really small. And I've worked with a fair number of women whose they're new to the whole money part because they've just gotten a divorce or their husband died, and they're like, he handled everything. I don't know what to do at all. And we start with talking about, the mindset, what they learned growing up, which for most of us is nothing, some of the things that hold them back, but then I give them some tools. So, let's work on creating a budget. A budget I mean, I call it, if you're younger, it's a savings plan. That's what it is. And there are different budgets for different personalities. So I don't tell people you got to use this particular software. You have to do this. I actually have 5 different budget types based on their personalities. I have them do a wants versus needs tracker, go back through the last 30 days, look at all of your expenses. Is it a want? Is it a need? Gradually, they become more and more confident. And quite honestly, a lot of the women are managing the money much better than the guy did. I worked with one woman whose husband died and they owed all this money to the IRS. And
Mm.
she felt, like, oh my God, she's like, I can't do this. Well, I told her, you're doing 1,000 times better than what your husband did. Be proud of that. So it's not rocket science. Um, Use simple terms. You know, you they can do it. I think the financial industry a lot of times tells us, well, we need to have a financial advisor and you need to know what all these fancy terms are. And it really is nothing more than grow your income, cut your expenses, save and invest the difference. That's it. That's wealth.
She says so simply. But you're don't want to sound like I'm pushing back, but because we both have been you were in the financial industry and I was too. And what I see, that's simple, but it's rare that you see it done and done early. So it took me a bit to figure it out. It was like, wait a minute. Stop the I guess the biggest thing that I saw was lifestyle creep. You get the
Yeah.
job, you get the promotion, and that starts to consume. Oh, I want the bigger house, the nicer purses, or I want the kid to take all these classes. I mean, women will find a way to spend the money. People, let's not just act like it's just women. Find a way to spend the money. So
That's where that
mindset is critical.
intentional comes in, right? That you were
Right.
saying, Dr. Brenda, is it intentional?
Yeah, but you touched on another thing that I do think impacts women more, and that's prioritization. There's a tendency to prioritize everybody else's needs, and you're at the back of the line. So, like, you really need to focus on your retirement, not pay the kids college. That's what you should be doing. But yet it's like I see women, moms especially, give everything to their kids and I want to make sure my kids are okay. Well, who's going to take care of you when corporate says your job is done and you're 50 years old? Who's going to take care of you? So it really is a matter of prioritization and putting ourselves at the front of the line too. Because, when you take care of ourselves, you earn more respect. Our family looks up to us and good things happen. But that is definitely something that I see with just we don't put ourselves number one. I mean, we like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. If I do that, I'll look selfish. Guys do that all the time. They don't
Yes,
look
they do.
selfish. They're just taking care of the family.
Yes, they do. But you're going to get a whole lot of people just said, oh, hell no. What is she talking about? My kids come first. They come before me and they're supposed to blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm just curious. What do you say to folks who say that back to you? Like,
Well, I just show them the consequences. I mean, there is definitely I get pushback. So, and the thing is, it doesn't stop when the kids are young. So I'll give you an example of working with someone who was in her 60s, and she put all of her kids. I'm like, we're going through the budget. Her monthly phone bill is like $150. I mean, it's pretty high. I said, well, let's cut this. "Oh, I can't, it's a party, it's a family plan, I'm paying for my kids." It's like, "Well, your kids are 35 and 30, stop doing that." And so a lot and I've worked with another person who, "Look, you co-signed for your son's car, you're paying for 3 vehicles, and you really shouldn't be doing that." And they say, "Well, I'm going to." I said, "Okay, just understand that that is gonna put you further behind on
mhm.
this other goal." So everything is a trade-off. I don't decide for somebody. I can just show you the math. I also in my career, I in my previous career, I started the Center for Elders in the Courts. I worked on court reform. I worked on elder issues. I saw, financial exploitation of the elderly. And so that's also part of my thing is like, you know what? You got to take care of your money. You got to be smart with it. And you have to put yourself in a place where the odds of being exploited are going to drop. And by the way, most of the time it's our family that exploits
Yeah,
our finances.
Right.
unfortunately, but it's true. Unfortunately, but it's true.
I'd like to talk about your YouTube channel for a minute. I was checking it. I was taking a look at it, and it's a mixture of videos. It's a mixture because often you hear when the YouTube people that sell YouTube courses, riches is in the niches. Focus on one particular thing, even to the point of maybe having multiple channels. And you haven't done that. You've got your gutsy women. You've got your channel. So you may come out with a video particularly focused on finances, women and finances. You've got some mindset stuff that comes out, and then you'll give us the RV story of my cats locked me out.
Exactly.
So how's that working for you, SEO wise and growth wise for your channel?
I mean the audience that is the easiest for me to reach, no surprise, are women RVers.
Hmm.
The financial piece, I do, that's there's such a it's such a huge marketplace, so it is harder to draw attention to that. I'm way too creative. I just cannot turn that off. I cannot help myself.
I'm glad you
And
didn't.
so some of the things that I do may not be the best for a business, but I enjoy doing it. So I just did a Money Monday video, and I'm taking a totally different route, and I call it the poetry of money. Because the fact is I love to write poems, I love to write short stories, and I've got creative license over whatever the hell I wanna do. And I'm just gonna do it and see what happens, but you have to do what you love to do, and there are, of course, pieces in our business that we probably don't like to do. Like, I would love if somebody's out there who can help me sell my stuff and market my stuff and do all that, get a hold of me because that's not my cup of tea. But you give me something to create, I'm all over the place. The other thing is, I'm not your typical financial coach. I'm not dressed up with, you know, $20,000 worth of clothing and trying to put up appearances. I am who I am. So either you're going to gravitate to me or you're not. But you're definitely going to know who I am, what I'm about, what my values are, even why I'm RVing in the first place. This is my life. This is who I am.
But you're living what you're telling people to do, which is this was my
Uh,
dream. I made
well,
a
I'll tell you,
plan,
yeah, yep.
you
So I
know.
talked about dream, plan, save, do, and I do have a video. I said the most difficult part is the doing part. The doing part. You know, so my career ended in my 50s, and I worked from the dining room table for 18 months, and I was like, "I am miserable. I'm putting on a ton of weight. This is not my lifestyle. What did I miss from my former career? I missed 2 things. I missed travel. I missed meeting people." And I'm like, "This house is too much for one person. My kid is gone. The house no longer brings me joy. I'm sitting on this huge asset. I could live this different life." I never drove an RV. I never slept in an RV. I'd never been in an RV. I'm on my own. I'm like, "What am I doing?" But I walked into one and I'm like, "You know what? This gives me travel. It allows me to meet people. I've lost a ton of weight. My demeanor's different. I have joy almost daily, and I'm living the life that I want to do. But doing often means having friends and family say, "Are you nuts? You're going to do
Yeah.
what? You're going to take a year off and go float around in Paris? Come on, who does that?" you're the one who's going to be doing it. So doing it often means you're defying those expectations that society has, that your family might have, because it's a little bit off the wall, right? Driving around in a 32-foot rig with cats and yeah,
I
but
love
I
it.
wouldn't change anything. But the doing is hard. You've saved, you've done all this stuff. Take that step out of your comfort zone. You got to do it.
I love it. And I see more and more women, especially because of everything we've already said, everything you and Daphne both have said. The women are told to put others first. The women are told, get a helping career, do a helping degree. The women are told you're the center of the home. You got to keep the home exactly how everybody else wants it. But I see so many women when something breaks down in that structure, whether it's of their choosing or someone else in the family, going, okay, if I'm going to do this my way, then I'm going to have a smaller space. I'm going to travel. I'm going to have a huge space because I want to garden. I want to live in the woods, or I'm going just that boldness to say, and there's nothing wrong with traditional family. I'm not trying to poo-poo that at all, but there's nothing wrong with coming to that point in your life and saying, okay, I did this for my kids. I did this for my marriage. I did this because my mom always wanted me to wear the apron in the kitchen and have a degree and have a job, whatever. And now I want to blank. What is it? And we're talking about women, but just plain having the balls to do it in whatever form it takes, right? Like be it selling your home and getting an RV, or be it, okay, I'm in my home, but kids, this Christmas we're going to Paris. This Christmas we're going to my favorite, whatever form it takes, and how much, if it's the side hustle. I know a lot of people, their side hustle is some form of their passion. Like you talk about the Etsy, Daphne talks to a lot of people about Bitcoin. For a lot of people, that's kind of a passion and it becomes a side hustle. But even just, I think that's just such a fulfillment in life. And I think that women are starting to come into this, okay, I need to be fulfilled too. And maybe we do it later in life, like in our 40s and 50s. Maybe that's why we're so much cooler when we're older. You're not worried about it anymore, right? Like, I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Daphne Jones.
Oh, well, it's the awesome thing about being a grown woman. We've reached the point where I think we talked about it the other day. I don't have to be cute today. I don't have to be. And if cute involves my feet hurting, that certainly isn't going to happen. If that has to be the choice. So the whole idea about grown women growing wealth is that I want to be able to do basically what I want. And it's my version of financial independence. And that's the whole thing with me as a financial educator, with you, Dr. Brenda, as a coach, uh, Roberta with her marketing, prowess, helping folks, okay, earn something so you can make those independent decisions.
Yeah.
Because you may reach a point where you, like say, you're looking at a house and it's like, okay, this was cool. And I bought it in the school district because we had kids and all the decisions you made about buying a house. Okay, well, now we're sitting on 20 plus years of equity. What's the plan? And continuing. And I want to take longer trips, whatever it is you want to do. I think that's what money does. It offers you options.
Yeah.
And attempting to build that foundation and talking about it with folks. As I said, to educate, that's me, the smart money chick. I just want you to know what's available, what this does, what this means. You make the choice. Now, if you're working real hard to go to Vegas every 6 months, have at it, girlfriend. That's your version of financial independence. I don't have to like it. I don't have to agree with it. As you said, make up your mind. The college thing you hit on about paying for kids' college. No, Roger and I did not pay for college because we put ourselves through. You talked about working. We went into the military, GI Bill. I am dating myself. It was much cheaper to go to school in the late 80s, early 90s when we went. Okay, so that has changed greatly. But the concept of that, you tend to respect that degree a little bit more when you've moved boxes or carried a ruck, for 20 miles. It hits a little different when you get that C. You're like, nah, we need to go to tutoring or something of that nature. This is something I earned. I'm real particular. So
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Daphne.
yeah.
The other interesting thing that's come out here, Brenda, that is a lot of my marketing, and how I help people with their marketing, is the distinctness of who you are. Because you're right, a lot of people, and Daphne does the same thing in her financials. A lot of women are faced with, love you guys. I love my husband and he's got a Burberry suit that he wears all the time, right? But I don't want financial advice from some dude in an office wearing a suit, because it just feels canned to me. And maybe it's not, I could be wrong, but to have the personality of someone, especially who's done what they are teaching, been through probably a lot of the ups and downs, and can say, okay, here's me full on, and these are the choices I made. I think it attracts the boldness of someone else, even if they're having timidity trying to do it. You say the doing is the hardest part, but that's what's so great, I think, about how you've set up your business and your YouTube channel. I'm seeing your boldness, and it's aspirational, right? There's several types of marketing. There's pain points, obviously. I solve your problem. Um, there's marketing to fit in. If you get this, you fit into our group. And then there's aspirational. You've kind of mixed all three of those together there, where it's like, okay, I see these pain points and let me show you how to get through them. And then also there's that aspiration of, well, Dr. Brenda did it, and so I can do it too. And then you're pulling them into that community, and that just solidifies the whole thing.
Well, it's the challenge. I think the biggest challenge being a financial coach is there's so much distrust and there's so much sleaziness
Mm-hmm.
in the field. And so I think that works against us initially because it's like, oh, she's just going to sell me some product where she's making a big commission, doesn't really care about who I am and what my values are. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to become a coach rather than an advisor
Right.
who's selling particular instruments.
Mm-hmm.
But there is this sleaze factor in the financial industry of, hey, come and have this steak lunch and we're going to sell you annuities.
Tax-free
And
retirement.
yeah, yeah. So, so it's like I've got to stand out differently, and that's not my persona. I'm probably the world's worst poker player. I can't. Everything shows on my
Can't
face.
bluff.
If I'm happy, it shows on my face. If I'm like, I mean, I just can't do it. And so, yeah, I mean, it's to me, wealth is not about showing it off. In fact, with Gutsy Women Finances community, I'm like, if your intent is to give get wealthy, to rub it in people's noses, this is not the group for you. That's not what wealth means uh, to me.
Yeah. With showing your values like that, then you're probably attracting people who feel exactly the same way. That they
What?
don't want wealth just to push a BMW in their mother-in-law's face or whatever, right? What were you going to say, Dad?
Well, no, it's marketing, and because we've talked about it before with other guests about that. It's not just an attractor you're marketing; it's a sifter, because
Yes.
it's if you don't relate to my RV and my cats, there's a good chance you're not going to relate to what we'll talk about if you join one of my communities. If will the academy really work for you? Because there's some, I'm my belief is woven in that. So I don't know if we'll mesh. So that's one of the great things about the authenticity in marketing.
Right. I mean, that's one of the risks that we all take, right? We want our personality. And, I mean, this whole business stuff was new to me. I first created a course and I really hid behind that course. And my business coach is like, look, you have to get a YouTube channel. I'm like, no, I don't. I don't want a YouTube channel. I don't want to be on video all the time. And, quite honestly, part of that was I was so out of shape and obese when I started. I didn't want to be on the camera all the time. But it's like over the time, I'm like, we are our brands. And I did
Mm-hmm.
not realize that when I, left the nonprofit, high level career to be an entrepreneur, I didn't realize that it would be about me. I thought content sells. Content doesn't sell.
It's free on Google.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they can find you that way through your content, which is what your YouTube is. It is your content, and they can find you that way, but they need to identify with you. Otherwise, you're fighting big box, like you're fighting Edward Jones on the Super Bowl commercial type of
Exactly.
thing, and you can't win,
Exactly.
but you don't
Right.
want to either. So you basically created your own little category with your program and also who you are as a person. It forces a choice, right? We Daphne and I talk about this all the time too. Who wants to be bigger, better, faster, cheaper, stronger, winner? Because somebody is always going to be able to beat you at some point. It's a constant rat race. But if you are forcing a choice, which is what you're doing, and obviously in a kind way, but that's a distinct choice. I want to follow this lady who I aspire to be like, who's in an RV doing what she wanted to do, being herself with her money. How did she do it? That's a category in its own. I really love how you mixed everything up on your YouTube channel. Like, it totally doesn't make sense when
Well,
you first
it's
look at it, and then when you get into it, you're like, oh yeah, this is the absolute right thing to do.
yeah. Well, part of it is just when for me, there are things I cannot not do. I cannot not write. I cannot not, do this stuff. And so, and Roberta, I might have to talk to you later about how you might be able to help me with some of the marketing because that has been a challenge because it is like I'm coming back now to what my intent was, which is to help women reach financial freedom. There goes a cat. And but for a lot of times I've always felt like an octopus, the eight-armed octopus, going in different directions and trying to bring that back into like, okay, the body of my work is really helping women reach the financial freedom so that they can live this, however they define a joyful life. So, but yeah, it's tough to kind of when you are really creative, it's sort of tough to like say, well, that's not going to make money, so I'm not going to do it. Instead, I'm like, I have to do it. Maybe it'll make money. So there is, I would be much better off probably if I were less creative.
Okay, I'm gonna push back on you there a little bit because I'm an artist business type too.
Okay, good.
Okay, they're the people out there, and this is 100% no judgment. There are people out there who can take a widget and make $1 billion business. It doesn't matter the widget. That is their gift.
Yep.
Right? Serial entrepreneurs, the Russell Bransons, the ones who, just listen to a podcast where the guy started with Paul Mitchell and now he's over selling something else that has nothing to do with it. He's just a business maker. The system of it. They love that, right? I thought I was that person. I always aspired to be. I am not. I'm like you. I'm a creative business, artist business person. It doesn't mean I'm selling art. I'm not. But it's a body of work. And every time I've tried to hard funnel it, like we got to focus. Daph and I also talked about this yesterday. She's like, you're going to need to start siloing your days because I'll just spin around trying to get, one thing done after another instead of just, okay, today I'm going to write. Today we're going to do video. Somebody's got to do the admin work at some point. Fine. But for an artist business person, that body of work is what you're going for and the money follows. There's no way around it because every time we do it the opposite way, it's incongruent. You might as well put on a business suit and go get a job at Merrill Lynch. It just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
That's why you feel
I'm
that.
glad to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's her job in the partnership. She helps us feel better. We make certain decisions. But I know I too, because I get the bright shiny object because there's always some stuff popping off in here. Well, let's go. I learned something new, and then that stirs a new thought, and you're like, yeah, we'll do this, because there is a place for consistency, particularly with YouTube marketing, wanting to get a consistent message out there. So maybe the consistent message is, I'm all over the place. This is what we're gonna talk about today. I love how you have money Mondays on your YouTube channel. You have Money Mondays, and I think Thursday is RV Thursday.
Yep, that's it.
So, because I'm exploring this YouTube thing for us, for the podcast, and then our individual businesses, and how to, because you want it to be effective, just like you want your money to be effective. You want it to do some work on its own.
Yeah.
So again, packaging that, that, because you can't help women if they don't know about you, because there's someone out there who your message is just for, and it's got to get to her. She needs a little idea. Okay, you know what, girl, you need to keep contributing. I call it an investment mix. And again, ease of use. Your company retirement plan, is there sexier stuff out there? ETFs and crypto and all that? Sure, it's out there. But you know what? You can set that company retirement plan at a certain amount, and it happens. You adjust, because it's consistency. You adjust it, it can adjust automatically. You can literally set it and forget it. Then your time can be taken up and looked into something else. And women need to hear that message, that you can create this life in the future.
Yeah, it is. I definitely agree. I mean, there is a consistency factor. And that's, with YouTube, I mean, one of the nice things is now, I travel places where my internet connection, my cell service is very weak, but you can schedule so many things in advance. And so that is an advantage. And the campground stuff that happens, like, yeah, I've got Facebook, so friends are going to know that the cat locked me out of the RV. So I may as well put up an extra video today because this just happened and it's a crazy story. So, but otherwise, yeah, that consistency to have a day set for this, another day set for that, that will hopefully have people coming back for more. But it is really fascinating, though, to look at the analytics of what people are watching. And for me, almost every month, I have the same video in the top 3 of my watches, and it's someone has clearly linked to it because it's the second video I ever made on the road. It's the second video, and it's setting up my catio. It's like, oh man, that's what they're watching. That's what they're watching. How do I get the catio people into my money group? So there's, you just don't know what people are going to be gravitating to, linking to on your YouTube stuff. So, it's that's something that we just really can't control. We think we can guess what's going to go viral and what's going to do really well, and we're always going to be wrong.
Our number one video, and this was by far, this thing, last time I looked, had 1,600 views, which is crazy. To us, it's crazy because we got 21 subscribers. And it was the first one we ever posted. So it's over a year ago. We were talking to a woman who was a private investigator. She owned her own private investigation service. And I must have picked the SEO must be awesome. It was how to run a background check while dating.
That's our number one watched video.
And she watched it for about 3 minutes on the importance of background checks and how to do one.
Yep.
And it was like,
well, we all said that was the only title that was in a form of a question. And that's the thing with YouTube. Right. YouTube's like Google. People are asking questions. That's how they're going to find you.
So so I want to thank you, Dr. Brenda, because you've given me courage to kind of merge some stuff with the YouTube channels, because I've been trying to manage 3 different channels, and that's craziness. It's craziness, so focus, consistency, because as
Well,
you said, have a lot of content. Let's get it out there.
yep, I'm looking forward then to checking out to see how you're doing that.
Yeah, just to get it in there, and because Google, YouTube allows you to you can segment your channel. You can say, hey, these are interviews, this is this, this is this, because often the message that's put on my heart, I do want to get it out there. There are times
Yeah.
when, hey, we need to talk Bitcoin, but there are also times I'll run into an incident where I'll either run into a life insurance question, or I saw some life insurance misappropriated. For instance, life insurance for kids. There's an individual out there who gives awesome debt advice, but he gives very bad life insurance advice. And people are told, don't independently insure your children. Keep them on your policy because it's cheaper, things like that, right? Well, insuring children is not a stupid thing. One, there's the very sad fact that you may lose your child, and there's going to be cost associated with that. But also, you help your kid financially, future-wise, in a great way by getting them life insurance. And there are multiple reasons. And that message needs to get out there. A mother needs to understand, yeah, you should get a policy for your kids. You should find a way to find some money to get a policy for your children. This is going to help them in a multitude of ways. It can help them in tax-free retirement. It can help them about going to college, a way to put aside money that isn't taxed a particular way. It can help them with simply having life insurance. Because one day, as I'm sure because everybody here is a grown woman, one day you're perfectly healthy, you're running 3 miles, you're awesome. And then one day you wake up and you can't get out of bed. It's boom, it just turned that quickly. And now you're uninsurable, and there are requirements on your life where you should have insurance, because whether it be with having children, getting married, you started a business, things of that nature. So that's my life
Well,
insurance plug.
you've just given me another video segment on trying to get long-term care insurance,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
something I tried to do when I was 50 and I couldn't. So so there's so many different things out there. But I mean, the other thing, Daphne and Roberta, is like sometimes people just want an inside glimpse of your lives too.
Yep.
Yes.
So like I put together a video, like, what does a typical day look like? And it's like, I'm living in an RV. What am I doing on a day-to-day basis? I mean, somebody told me they loved it when I went through my little freezer here and looked to see what was in there. I mean, it's just very quirky. How you're picking out clothing, or which T-shirt am I going to wear today? It's sometimes it's those little dinky things, little personality quirks, or little glimpses into your personal life that people are fascinated with. I don't
Absolutely.
know why, but that's what I find happens.
I read this article a week or so ago. This guy was writing about how Google feels so inauthentic now. He was a marketer, and he had Googled toaster oven. Needs a toaster oven. Just looking for recommendations. So of course, Google, you get the ads in the shops, and then you get all the answers to the questions. So he's looking at the answers to the questions, and he's like, I can tell that Google still is pointing me where they want me to go, and it's a $300 toaster is what they wanted to buy, right? He's like, but looking at all these reviews, none of them were real. They were all bought from a blogger who somebody called and said, hey, can you write me a blog about this toaster? And that's what Google picked because it's directing you, that mistrust we have now. So he said because he's a marketer, he's like, for shits and giggles, I go dig and dig and dig. And he finally found a real person who said, I love this toaster so much. During the pandemic, I risked going to my neighbor's house with no mask and no vaccine to use this toaster. So he buys a $300 toaster from that man's review. But the whole point was exactly what you were just saying. People are so starved to see something real. We know none of the reality television is real. We know Instagram's photoshopped. You know, that's why Gary Vee's so popular, because you can see him underpants and all. But you're talking about financial planner who's sitting in an office with a finance degree, master's from Harvard, staring down at you, and you're like, I'm looking for the $50 to get the policy that Daphne just told me I needed. I don't want to talk to that guy. They want to talk to somebody who's like, I got 8 things in my freezer because that's all that fits. And then, by the way, this is why your kids should have life insurance, and this is why and how to do it. They need to see themselves in what you're doing. And we just don't see ourselves. Now, some people still do. My husband's a big box shopper. He believes in big brands. But a lot of us just don't see ourselves that way anymore.
Yeah. Well, the big brand thing still has to do with consistency.
Yes.
And you know what you're going to get. For instance, when I was in the service and traveling, I would stop in at every McDonald's where I went. And this amazed me, maybe because I was a young woman. The names may change a bit, but the basic food of McDonald's, because they'll go regional. God darn it, a Big Mac is the same in Los Angeles as it is in Tokyo, as it is in Seoul, Korea. Doesn't change. It's a Big Mac, and this is what it tastes like. So there is a comfort in that.
Yeah.
When I walk in here, I'm going to get this thing. When I open a can of Coke, this is what I'm going to get. I
Right.
know exactly what I'm going to get. Yeah. And possibly lose a customer when they don't get that.
Absolutely. But the people who are looking for the 3 of us are not looking for that.
No.
At least they might not know it yet until they see it. But
I think there's a little big box in everybody, though. Just a little bit. Because I'm sure you have a favorite coffee, Dr. Brenda.
Well, I
No?
you'd probably be wrong on that. I mean, I make
Uh-oh.
my own little tea, so I don't do the tea. I don't
The
have
coffee
a
thing?
favorite place, but to me, I mean, I'm a Trader Joe's nut, so it's like
Okay.
sometimes I steer my RV toward a Trader Joe's.
we go to Trader Joe's at least, I don't know, 4 times a week.
So I have an
Wow.
RV question. So how did you pick the particular RV you have? Did you have a list, or you just went in there and felt it called to you? Said, Brenda, call
Ah,
me.
well, because I travel with cats, one of the things is I didn't want to have a truck with a camper. I would have had to buy the truck and the camper. So it's like, that's
Mhm.
not going to work. And so then you're really left with what's called a class A, which is like the bus, versus the class C, which is the motorhome. And I'm like, I'm not a bus driver. Bus is not for me. This is more like in the woods type of thing.
Mhm.
But I actually found this at a place in Richmond, Virginia, that only sold bank-owned RVs and boats.
Interesting.
So, as a financial coach, it's like, these are people who have overextended themselves. They bought this great RV, they bought the boat, it doesn't get used, they can't make the payments, the bank takes it over. So I think it's a little ironic that I ended up buying a bank-owned RV, but it was 2012, and it had just 17,000 miles on it. And it's like, well, it's a Winnebago, which is like one of the best brands there. So, and I totally ripped the inside out. So like, if you're looking back here, you see blue walls and white trim. You're never going to find that in an RV until you do it yourself. Cause it's like, this is my home. Everything in RVs are dark, tan, gray. It's like, those are not colors in my world. Blue, white, lightness. And it just, I don't care to go back to a house. If I did go back to a house, maybe cottages and cabins, smaller size. I don't need to take care of all that stuff. It turns out you can still lose quite a few things in an RV.
Oh my
There's such
gosh.
small space, but things disappear.
So, so you can remodel an RV.
Yeah, you can absolutely. So like I'm sitting here at my home office, which used to be the dinette. I'm like, I ripped it out. I need the. I can benefit from a home office, and my home office is a little bit unique because I have 3 columns, and underneath each of those is a little cat cubby. So you
Okay.
can do whatever you want to do. You could
That's
design, you can
fantastic.
design it. But that's an advantage of getting the older models tend to actually be better constructed. And when it's older, you don't feel like, oh, this is I can't paint. Yeah, you can paint. You can do whatever you want with it.
Okay. Okay.
That's so fun. What's your favorite place that you've been?
Ah, oh man. Well, Utah was incredible. I had this riverside campsite in Zion National Park for 2
Wow.
weeks. I hiked up to Angel's Landing, which is totally scary. Hike the Narrows, which is the river that goes. Oh my goodness. It's just I told somebody said, well, when are you going to be done with this? And I said, maybe when it stops feeling like Christmas all the time.
Yeah, no
Because I
kidding.
get in the RV, I'm ready to drive, and it's like I don't know what I'm gonna get at the new place, but it feels like I'm opening up a present almost every day. I mean, what a way
That's
to live.
fantastic. That's fantastic. Fortune favors the bold.
I hope
So on
so.
that note, Dr. Brenda, thank you so much for being here. We really enjoyed it. And how can people find your community? Give me the name again. And you're on your Facebook of the community, right?
Well, I'm right now probably the best way is just go to drbrendamoneycoach.com. And from there they can get to almost everywhere.
Awesome.
And it's
Thank you so much.
DRBRENDA Money Coach. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
This
And definitely
this
will
is
be in the
great.
show notes.
This has been great. This has been great. We've I think we're gonna have to make this a 2-parter because yeah, yeah, we're gonna have to
This has
do
been
that.
fun. And if you need help picking out an RV, you know where to go.
Okay, we'll give you a call. And hey, thanks for joining us on this episode of Grown Women Growing Well. Bye bye now.
Bye bye.